Greetings, everyone. It's Monday, March 12th, and it's great to have you here. Um, we have now completed Numbers, and it's time to move on to the book of Deuteronomy. Actually, Deuteronomy means second law, but that's kind of a misnomer because we're not going to really get a second law. We're just going to get Moses delivering a sermon or a series of sermons, basically recounting the events that have happened up to this point and pointing the people forward, giving them some encouragement, and really focusing more on the heart and spirit of the law rather than on the legal regulations and the letter of the law. And in fact, he's going to talk about kind of the overall law of God that we're all familiar with in Deuteronomy chapter, I believe chapter 6, verse 5, which says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." So as we move into Deuteronomy now, and we get this recounting of the events that have taken place, you're going to see a phrase over and over, and it is the words which Moses spoke. Because obviously Moses is doing the speaking, but he's really giving them, as opposed to in the past when God would speak to him and he would tell the people what God's commands are. This time at this time late in his life, he's basically kind of laying out for them what has happened, and more giving a sermon than basically stating the facts and the rules. And so it's good that we pay attention to it at this time. And one of the things I think that as we read through Deuteronomy, and you'll probably find it even in these first 3 chapters, because I know I did, is that this book is dripping with lessons on leadership. We see all different kinds of leaders in the world. Moses clearly was a man of leadership, and there are a number of things that we could pick out that are valuable for us to learn if we wanted to through reading Moses' writings and what he says to the people. So today, I thought I'd start off with just giving you maybe 3 of those things that I saw and see what we can learn from them. And the first one is that leadership is all about vision and risk-taking. Moses was a man of vision. God certainly gave him the plan, but Moses is the one who kept on task. Moses is the one who always kept the goal in front of him. He encouraged and led and sometimes pushed the people forward, and he never gave up. He never stopped. And there's a great quote by the missionary explorer David Livingstone, as you recall, traveled throughout Africa in his day. And David said, "I will go anywhere as long as it is forward." And I think that's true of visionary leaders. They don't stop. They're always moving forward. They're always following after a goal, and they are not deterred. John Maxwell, who wrote a commentary that I was reading the other day, is a pastor, author, speaker, writer on leadership, and he said, "Men and women of caution never advance the kingdom of God. People of vision are willing to take risks, knowing that they are attached to God's rope of security." And I think that's important for us to learn too, is that if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a follower of God who is a disciple, you need to be willing to take risks, but do so always knowing that God is the one who is in charge, and God is the one who is leading and guiding and directing. The second characteristic, the second leadership principle that I think we see here in just these first 3 chapters, is that leadership is about delegating and sharing authority. And clearly we saw through their exodus and their travels in the wilderness that Moses was a man who understood the need to involve others and to share leadership. He did that often by appointing those over the various tribes, by deferring to Aaron, by calling upon Joshua, all as God led him. But nevertheless, leaders are people who are influencers. Not only are they able to to share something and go in a direction, but they influence others to want to do the same. And that certainly was true of Moses. One quote I saw was, "They know the way, they go the way, and they show the way." And I think that's a great way to sum up what leaders are all about. I'm reminded of that great quote, and I don't even know who said it, but I think it's great. And I've heard it before, but it fits here so perfectly. It says, "He who thinks he leads, but has no one following him, is only taking a walk." And one thing we know about leaders is that people will follow. The third principle that I would share with you today is about leaders keeping to the goal, staying focused. And clearly, as Moses is recounting for the people their travels so far, there certainly was a lot of a lack of focus, shall we say, on the part of the Israelites in their wanderings. Moses reminds the people of that. He reminds them really of several things. Number one, they forgot the past. Number two, they were discouraged by their present circumstances, whatever they may be. And they were also very fearful of the future. And he tried to explain to them why that was the wrong approach to take. What was wrong with that? And first, in talking about forgetting the past, what he said was they forgot the God who brought them out of Egypt in the first place, who provided for them, who protected them, who led them, and who brought them to where they are at that moment, ready to cross into the promised land. He reminded them of how they were discouraged by circumstances, whether it was a lack of food, lack of water, whether it was the spies who returned and said, "There's no way the inhabitants of that land are too big and powerful for us." And he reminded them also about, oh, by the way, if you want to go back to that recounting of the spies and their return from the land of Canaan, go to Numbers 13. I saw one commentator pointed out an interesting piece about that chapter. He said, nowhere in there do you find a mention of God. In reality, their discouragement was because they lost their focus on God and what His plan was, and rather just looked at the circumstances. And I'm wondering sometimes if we're not like that. Anyway, the third thing is they're also fearful of the future. They don't know what's coming. They are afraid. And in fact, what that really means is they're fearful and more fearful of the future than they are of their God. And that's really amazing when you think about all of the things that the Israelites had seen their God do for them. And so there were a number of things Moses pointed out to the people that they had been lacking, and that they needed to change and rethink. And so we get some great lessons on leadership here as Moses goes back through all of the events that have happened as he's speaking to the people. One final note, Moses recognized that God had promised to be with his people and that they were to be on the move. They were not to settle, to relax, or to call it quits at any given point. And I believe that's still God's call on his church today. As Jesus said in Matthew 28, "Go and make disciples of all nations." Now, what can we say about that in our own lives? I don't know about you, but I know for me personally, there are times I settle. There are times that I succumb to my discouragement at circumstances in my life. There are times that I'm fearful. And I recognize that. And I pray and seek God's guidance, wisdom, direction, strength to help me overcome that. And the other thing I think is interesting is I was talking with a colleague of mine the other day, and we agreed that if we as the Church of Jesus Christ were up and ready and moving, and when that has happened, God does amazing things. And I think that's exciting to know. I know we were getting excited thinking about that and what possibilities there might be if we really committed ourselves and put ourselves out there. So God's promise to us is to be there with us, but nevertheless his call on us is to be moving forward, always to bring the gospel to the world. And remember Jesus' comment, and I'll leave you with it today. If we have faith as small as a mustard seed, we can move mountains. That's exciting to think about. I hope it is for you. Have a great day.